Hey everyone, and welcome to An Eventful Life with Brad Cox and Shane Buzzer. I'm Brad.
And I'm Shane.
An Eventful Life is the podcast where we take you on a journey through eventful lives of inspirational event leaders from around the world.
That's right, Brad. We'll be sharing their stories, impact, and insight into the complex world of events. So if you like these stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your mates.
This is An Eventful Life. Hello, Buzz. How are you, mate?
I'm good, Brad. How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Having another big week in your life, I assume. It's all happening at your end in the cold depths of winter in Melbourne.
It's always a big week, but how are you coping back in Melbourne after a trip away in the sunshine? You doing okay?
Yeah, I was in Bali, and now I'm all of a sudden back here. It's like I've got jumpers and that many layers on at the moment, but hey, we just get on with it, don't we?
Exactly.
So,
here's what it is.
In one day.
It's with us for a few months, so...
Hey, Buzz, we all know that in the world of events, you are only as good as those that you have around you, your support network, and that includes our suppliers, and that's what today's episode somewhat geared around. But when you mention the word suppliers, there is one name that rolls off your tongue as the ultimate to so many people. From humble beginnings in the back blocks of Heidelberg in Melbourne to the ultimate team across the country, Harry the Hirer only needs their name mentioned to anyone in the industry, and everyone knows exactly who you are talking about. From temporary structures, marquees, furniture, decor, exhibitions, production, they cover a wide network of services for the event industry. And today's guest leads their ultimate operation, steering the ship as CEO for 7 years and part of the team for nearly 17 years. Would you please welcome the always calm Gab Robinson? How are you, mate?
Very good, Brad. Thanks for the kind introduction.
That's all right.
I told you he was good with his intro.
He's done very well there.
I like to set these things up nicely. So,
thank you.
How's things in the in your world at the moment? You guys are always flat out, so we appreciate you giving up some time, but no doubt busy as usual.
Absolute pleasure to be here. It's been a wonderful year. If you think back to where we were a year ago to where we are today, who would have thought things would bounce back as strongly and as quickly as they did? So. There are challenges at the moment, but certainly not the challenges we had from 2020 onwards.
I think the main difference is half of Melbourne seem to be in Europe or Bali. That seems to be one of the big changes.
Yeah, why aren't we there?
Yeah, exactly. We're
the
here
streets
doing
are half
podcast.
empty at the moment. It's crazy. Hey, it was a bit of a tough one to know where to start this conversation as Harry's is such an operation and continues to evolve from sort of its over 35 years in operation to now having over 500 employees under your guidance. So I thought, can you remember your first day walking in there some 17 years ago and what that was like?
Yeah, so firstly, business has been around about 45 years.
45 now, yeah, wow.
Pre-COVID, we had about 1,250 people. We're back to about 1,000 people now.
Yeah.
So the position we're in today is good.
Yeah.
Thinking back to when I first started, so I had no idea about the event industry. Did not know it existed and was certainly not part of my plans. I was in a graduate recruitment program at the time and had come back from Africa, had a credit card debt and an engagement ring to give my wife-to-be and needed to find a way to pay off that debt and pay the rent. And so I just answered an ad for manual labour in the Herald Sun, I think it was, and some bloke at our Brooklyn warehouse answered the phone and said, yeah, okay, if you want to come in, I guess you can. My name's Ivan. Come introduce yourself when you get here. And he met me, looked me up and down, and the next day I was carrying 8x4 floor sheets across scaffold platforms at the Heineken golf bump out.
Wow.
And my head was just spinning, but of course you're not really, it wasn't a career. It was simply, okay, I can pay my rent, I can pay off some credit card debt. So that's really all I was concerned about. I wasn't really looking around for any other reason.
I love the story that you found it in the Herald Sun. That really was how we found jobs once upon a time. That's awesome.
Absolutely, yeah.
And was it what you expected it to be, or was it completely different? Did you have any idea about the industry at that point?
No, mate, not at all. When I think back, I do remember driving past the big Harry's, the big blue Harry's building in Richmond in Burnley Street. Yep. Never knew what it was. Saw the big lettering out the front, Harry the Hirer, and I just assumed they were hiring. Looked like a rundown sort of place. They were hiring scaffold or something. Didn't think twice. But when I started at Brooklyn in the operational capacity, I just thought, my God, if I want hard work and to be physically challenged, you're not going to get any tougher than this, because that first week or so, Me and another fella who was brand new were just carrying those floor sheets in the wind from one end of an 80-metre scaffold platform to the other and just throwing them down, ready for the forklift to pick them up.
I didn't know Brooklyn has been around that long. I thought it was relatively new, but clearly not.
No, it does get bigger over time as we need more space to store everything. But I started 20 years ago in 2003.
How many would have been there then, give or take?
I'll say a couple of hundred.
Okay, just to kind of get a bit of a scale as to where Harry's has
5
come.
times its size as of today.
I'd say a couple of hundred, and it was a very different place to what it is today.
Yeah, wow.
Well, it would be naive of any of us to think that Harry the Hirer has just clicked their fingers and landed the big jobs that everyone knows about. But back then, had that been tapped into yet, or was there a bit of planning around it, or how did that come about?
The business, we've never been a business to put together 5 or 10 year strategic plans. We evolve organically, and we evolve by employing really good people, buying the best product we can possibly find, trying to build the best relationships with the market and service it as best we can. And from there, opportunities have popped up. So way back in the day when Rick started it, he just bought an old army tent and some plastic tables and chairs, and the cricket club wanted them, someone around the corner wanted them, then he needed a bit more, and so on and so forth. And it grew in that party hire side. And then Victoria was embarking upon a major event policy. The state was. And we had the horse racing, but it wasn't anything like we understand it to be today. And Rick, he did a few parties in Toorak, and then those people were associated with the races, and things grew organically over time. And so Harry the Hirer, hand in hand with the Victorian event industry, which is now the biggest in the world and the best in the world and the most sophisticated, we grew together. And as the event industry grew here, Harry's grew. And so we could scale up alongside what was happening and support each other along the way.
And on a personal level, you said that you started getting your hands dirty, on the tools, really. What was your first, I guess, full-time role, or how did you start your development with Harry?
So it was never about progression or development or anything like that. I mean, it wasn't until maybe 3 or 4 years into my time there that I thought this might be somewhere that I'd stick around and work a few more years. But really, I was in a 12-month graduate program straight out of university. This was just at that young age. What was I then? 23 or 24. You're just looking to pay the bills.
Yeah, totally. Part-time job.
I had a double degree, and I was thinking, well, if working for, I'd applied for ASIO, which is one of the government intelligence arms.
What was your degree in? Sorry to interrupt.
Arts law.
Yeah. Okay.
So I did that for 6 years, and that back then you needed a 4-year degree to qualify for the graduate program for ASIO. Well, I tried out. It staggered 12-month recruitment process, bombed out at the final stage in Canberra, as I should have, because I was very immature. They suggested I come back the following year, but as that happened, the Harry the Hirer thing started. So manual labour for maybe 6 months or so, which was great as a kid, and you like working hard, and you're out in the sunshine most of the time. And then from there, a job opening became available in the sales office. And Brett O'Hara, who's been with the business for the best part of 40 years, said, listen, Gab, this job's popping up. Why don't you put in an application and see how you go? And so I did that and went in, and I had no idea what I was in for. I was just as green as anything. So back then, Harry's didn't have the level of sophistication it did today. But I thought I'd better put the suit on, better put the tie on, and walk in there, and I'd look completely out of place. Anyway, Rick was upstairs, and someone said, just walk up those stairs and you'll find him in his office. Open the door, and there's this old fella with his legs up on the table, cigarette coming out of his mouth, reading the paper. And, that was my first meeting with Rick, and luckily enough, I got the job.
Were you daunted by that experience, seeing him sitting there like that?
No, not at all. I mean, I sort of just took it in my stride and had a bit of a chat, not really knowing anything I was talking about. But at that age, you're just desperate to get some sort of full-time role that gives you security. Totally. Like, it's an absolute pot of gold and a dream. And my salary back then, by the way, was $35,000. That was everything I could ever hope for. Yeah. That was wonderful. And then all the insecurity of being a casual and not really knowing exactly what the next few months would look like, disappeared like that. And I thought I'm made for life. I've got a full-time role at $35,000 a year. What more do I need?
Beautiful.
And as much as it's grown over time, both business and yourself, there are a couple of things that really stand out to me, and they revolve around the team. And you mentioned team just a bit earlier, and the people there. The first is the longevity of so many of them, and yourself included in that. And I know from my experience, I still see the same faces year in, year out when I go down there. You're still energetic, loving what they do. What do you think is the key to being able to retain so many of the team for so long in a very demanding industry in some ways, and the role that you play within that now?
Sure. So you're dead right. It's the strength of Harry the Hire is its people and their experience and their know-how. And it all starts with trying to bring the right people into the business to start with. If you don't have the right people there from the moment you employ them, they're never going to last.
And it's more than skill set, Gab, isn't it? It's skill set, of course, that plays a part, but characteristics.
It's skill set is in fourth place. The most important thing is the person. Yeah. Are they a good person? Are they humble, down to earth? Hardworking, fun, happy to have a laugh? Are they nice? Are they going to fit in and treat everyone with respect? Because if that's not there, you're never going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
So if we find that person, then they're the sort of person we want to keep in the business. So we're very loyal to them. We reward them as best we possibly can, pay them as much as we possibly can. And if they show talent amongst our good people, we promote them through the business, and they can get to wherever they're capable. There's really no limit.
And do you think that's the key to retaining them for so long, yourself included in that part, or are there some other elements that you look at?
Well, the key is I'm not an event industry tragic, Brad. I don't love the industry. I love the teamwork and the people.
Yeah, great.
So I love the people I work with. I love the mission we're on, achieving things together. So if I wasn't working with people I really liked and respected, then I don't think I'd be there. But it's the people that are around me that I find so magnetic, and that's why I stick around, and that's the sort of culture that we like to build. Having said that, there are a majority of people are in our business they love events, they love exhibitions, so they love the pressure associated with all coming together under a huge amount of client expectation and delivering a product to a certain timeline. They get a real buzz out of that.
Shane. Did
they get a real buzz out of that. So, we all like it for different reasons, but the key is to employ good people, and then reward them for their effort and be loyal to them.
You mentioned sort of culture just there a minute ago. The second thing that really stands out to me is the personable approach to your clients and the industry in general. And you really make everyone feel like you're mate and you're in it together, in terms of when you're working on projects and events as part of that team. How have you been able to craft this into the fabric and culture and of the organisation and make sure that that's sort of the ethos of which you approach the outside world of the four walls of Harry the Hire, so to speak?
Yeah, sure. So once again, the starting point is employing the right people because if you're not a relationship-based person, you're really going to struggle to form those connections that you referred to. And then from there, we continually reinforce the fact that there's a number of fundamental drivers which deliver our success. Relationships, so that's relationships with the industry. We like to call them friendships. Because if you're friends, generally you can work things out and achieve goals together. We try and get the very best product we can, so relationships, product, service. And as I said, the foundation to that is having the right people. So you're continually, Brad, reinforcing the fact that in order for our business to be successful, in order for you to be successful, you must be able to form friendships with your client base, friendships with industry, trust and understanding. And through that, you're in it together because you're mates.
Retention as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we say it every week nearly. It's like, that whole collaboration piece with events, you're only as strong as the team and those that do support you around you. And, I don't think there's any more truer statement than when it comes to Harry's and, you're always on site and you guys are standing right there next to you in your blue shirts. And it's like, I can always go there and rely on the guys when I need to.
Yeah, it's important to assist with actual delivery, but also culturally, it's very important.
I was going to say, is it important within the four walls of Harry the Hire that when you're working on such high profile and stressful jobs that you've got that camaraderie inside the four walls so you can bounce off each other and support?
Absolutely. Well? I mean, that's half the reason no one ever worked from home. Because if you're apart, you're not a community. So we've always worked together in the office, even over those very difficult periods. So every spare moment you're not doing something, you're building that trust and confidence with the people around you or the people in the other departments. Whereas if you're working from home, when you have a spare moment, you're not putting that time and effort into those ancillary things. You're doing the washing or walking the dog. Just one other thing I'll say is this point about teamwork. I'd challenge you to think of any other industry which requires more teamwork, apart from professional sport, than our industry. We've got 1,000 people, 13 different sales departments, 16 different operating departments, 5 different transport desks, all coming together under intense pressure, high client expectation to deliver something very intricate at a certain date. Now, if you don't trust each other and know how to work well together, what chance do you have?
It's so true. And I mean, you use the analogy of professional sport, and I tend to do the same. We're like a football team. You got your coaches up the top and you got all your players in your back line. And if you're not harmoniously from forward line to midfield to back line, all working together in one team effort, it'll fall over somewhere.
It's true, isn't it?
Yeah. It's the best analogy going around, I think. So.
Yeah.
And has that helped with, obviously your own personal development, but internally within the team, there's a lot of progression within the team to, for promotions, more opportunity, a different position. Is that really driven into the culture there? I assume so, but do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, so everything rises and falls on leadership. So we need really strong leaders in each of our divisions. And as I said, we've probably got 30 or 35 different managers through sales, ops, transport and service. And so they have to be setting the example. They have to be modelling the right behaviours. And then the others around them pick up on that and they develop in line with that. And as I said, Shane, if you can shine amongst the quality people at Harry's, you go wherever you want to go. But it's up to the individual.
Yeah, of course.
They've got to prove themselves.
Yeah.
One of the great traits of the team when things are needed is a short turnaround time. I think that's a true trait to who you guys are, and all those last minute requests. And we've all been in that position. But when you're on site or at an event and you need something last minute and things happen, generally there's a statement of, just ask Harry's, they'll be able to sort it out.
Oh, that's great to hear. I'm glad people say that.
Yeah, but it sort of leads me to an interesting question, because you guys take on so much stuff and there's always this yes attitude to it, which is fantastic. But internally, that comes with extra pressure. And you talk about those, those deadlines and everyone working together. Does the constant demand of those sort of requests and that methodology impact the business? And how do you evaluate the risk, on that yes culture? And has it ever caused you to come unstuck at any point? It's a big, long question, but
no. I understand what you're asking. Yeah. So no, we're all incredibly proud that we are seen as that business.
Yeah.
And that's probably half the reason we are the business that we are today. And we really must guard against becoming a no business, which we're more cautious of than being a yes business.
Yeah.
And we then have a structure and resource that enables us to say yes. So we never take on work that we can't put our hand on our heart and say we can confidently deliver. We won't overburden ourselves. And we know if we take on a major job or contract that there will be last minute things.
Yeah.
But we won't take on another major contract which wouldn't prohibit us from being able to say yes. So at times, if it's really impossible, then we won't say yes and hope for the best. We'll only say yes if we know for sure we can deliver. And 99.5% of the time, we can deliver on those last minute requirements.
Has that kind of changed a bit though, Gab, in that, as businesses grow, you need to take some risks and sometimes take on more work than you can to a certain point. So has the growth of Harry's put you in a position to now have that mindset and mentality where you can structure decisions a bit better than perhaps you once did?
So I'd encourage everyone who's listening to this not to take on work which has a question mark over it, because that's your reputation.
Yep.
If you take something on and you can't deliver it to a high standard or can't deliver it at all, that you're only as good as your last job.
Yeah.
And that's very, very damaging, and it can take you 5 or 10 years to recover from something like that.
I'm making notes over
Yeah.
here in the
So
corner.
don't really take
We've
it.
always got a couple in the back of our mind, so without naming names, but yes, keep going, mate.
Take a deep breath and work out if you're going to 100% deliver it to a very high standard before agreeing to it. So that's the first thing I'll say. The second thing I'll say is we never want to be seen as, and we are, and this is one of the challenges we face, as being arrogant and dictatorial and choosy. If we can deliver a responsible return through a job based on the price point, and we aren't at capacity at the time that opportunity arrives, then we'll absolutely take it on, whoever it is. We want to serve the industry. We want to serve our client base. That leads to our growth. But we won't take on work at peak times when we don't have capacity, and particularly if we can't quite get the rate to what our business needs.
And that would be a decision of leadership together to make those decisions?
We have some pretty strict benchmarks that all of our managers and sales teams are aware of. And if there needs to be a discussion following that, based on whatever variable exists, relationship-based, or the client's in a real pickle and needs our help, then we'll get together as a group and try and make the right call.
You don't have to mention any names here, but have you had to say no to a larger job, or even just say no to a request based on the risk element or the danger to not just the event but your brand?
Not so much the brand, but every week we'll say no to opportunities of all the time. As I said, you've got to be very, very cautious. We won't overburden ourselves, and we don't want to let down our clients. So that's a regular thing indeed.
You mentioned Rick before, Rick Jamieson, who started the company and is still a little bit actively involved in some ways, and I'm sure shows his face in there.
Now, just on that, I reckon he's retired about 6 times, Brad. But
I still to John Farn on that.
I still see him for some reason.
But trusting you to take the reins would have been a big step. It was his baby. How do you go about continuing his legacy in your approach, but also put your own mark on the business?
So he never said, "Gab, here you go, run it." That was never. He said, "Gab, I want you in this position, and you're part of the team." So Harry's has a senior management group, and we get together and collectively try and guide the business as best we can. It's certainly not me and everyone else.
Is that a plan, Gab, though? Because you don't just say, "Oh, you're going to be the CEO now." Was there a 12-month, 24-month, or was there a progression plan?
No, mate. He just said, "I need to have a chat with you," and 2 minutes later, it was a complete surprise. He said,
so it really does
"Gab,
sound
I want to make you CEO." I was completely surprised. Yeah. But the main point isn't that. The main point is we run the business as a collective. And we will debate, like we disagree all the time. In fact, I disagree more with the people in the senior team than agree with them, and that is the beauty of it. And we debate, and eventually we work out what the right call is. And once we've made that decision, we're united. There's no corridor convos. We own it, and we all support it 100%, even if we were opposed when we were making that decision.
And you put that down a little bit to culture and the longevity and like the understanding of the business, but the fact that you guys can go in and have those debates and opinions, but knowing that collectively you've got each other's best interests at heart, or more importantly, the business best interests at heart.
That's the key, that no one in that group puts himself before the business. Yep. And that's the truth. And when we've all worked together for 15 or 20 years, so you trust each other. So you can have a robust convo, and that's just how it is. And then you get on with it. With regard to my own spin, not real. I had no strategy to put my own spin on it. I've just tried to be who I am, and I hope that how I behave sets a certain example for how other people behave and what's needed in our business. But that's really as far as it goes, to try and have a bit of influence through who I am. And I have to be very careful with who I am, because, we must always set the right example, and who you are inside and who you might need to be every single day without any break isn't always the same. So I'm very aware of how I'm behaving, and I don't always get it right, but it's very important to consistently model those right behaviours. And then I guess through my position, you're involved in decision making, and I'd probably see things a little differently to others. So I can bring, not necessarily right, but I can bring a different perspective. So through modelling the right behaviours and having a slightly different view of things, those are the two ways that I contribute to our business.
And does Rick still have an influence in any way? Does he occasionally put you aside and say, "Oh, Gab, I saw this," or
maybe
"I thought that," or
the smoking policy?
Yeah, that might have well gone.
More so, like we run the business without Rick day to day, but if he sees something he doesn't like, he'll come in and he'll seriously tell us about it. And big decisions, not the day-to-day operational or sales stuff but big decisions, absolutely. He's the sole owner of the business, and he has every right, and it's wonderful to have him there, for those occasional moments when he does want to tell you something.
And looking back from his humble beginnings, a few tents and temporary structures, How has Harry's become so diverse in its offerings, and in your opinion, such an established and respected brand?
Well, established and respected brand is we keep our word. We have that integrity. We don't let people down, Shane. Like, we're very cautious about taking on the work, or we try not to let people down. We occasionally stuff things up, as everyone does. So that's your reputation. With regard to the product offering, as I said at the start, we just try and do a good job and speak with our clients, understand what they may need, understand what industry may need, and you slowly just add those things into your offering and your products. And all of a sudden you start off with a canvas tent and some chairs. And then here we are today doing parties, events, exhibitions, productions, custom build, signage, pretty much everything that industry has told us they need, and we can then build that increase our scope of works and build it into our existing
and no one else
contracts.
has really ever been able to do that, and it's an interesting point. You look around at a lot of different suppliers, and some might have 2 or 3 arms to their business, but to have the volume of arms that you guys do and be able to deliver on every single one of them, it makes you a bit of a unicorn in that space in a great way. But it's certainly something that makes you guys stand out.
Yeah, we were very lucky in the event industry in Victoria because we grew hand in hand with what became the events capital of the world.
Yep.
So it gave us huge strength, which and Victoria surpassed New South Wales and South Australia and Queensland. So we became an expert in our field, which we could then roll out to the other states because Victoria is the most sophisticated event environment. In addition, so exhibitions then came on 25 years ago, let's say, because we had this full-time workforce that was busy during the summer months but really didn't have much to do in the winter months. And that's very hard to maintain from a cash flow perspective and profitability perspective because you need 600 people during the peak season, but when there's nothing on, you need no one. And you might lose that experience, and certainly the profitability is an issue. So before my time, they introduced the exhibition arm of our business through Paul Herman. And so that provided Harry's with great stability through 12 months of the year. And it also meant that we could bring our unique and high-end event product into the exhibition space, which the exhibition space hadn't seen before. No. They were more used to that corporate-y stuff.
Totally.
So through no real well thought through strategy, but just because we've slowly evolved and organically grown, we've been able to have strength in size and capability, but also add different industries to our business.
And it doesn't just happen though. So was it a case of getting one job turned into 2 jobs, turned into 3?
That's exactly right. Yeah, and you just try and prove yourself every time, Shane, and hopefully over time you get the right people in your business, the right product, people have confidence, and retention, grows.
I guess, in the exhibition space, because they are commonly run year on year, and even if it's a different state, you can deliver that. So
that's right. Yeah,
nice.
Large-scale public events, sort of become one of the cornerstones of what you guys do now. From a supplier's point of view, and I use that term very loosely for you guys, what do you look for in these partnerships, with some of these major events, and what do you consider, and how do you structure your teams, to make sure that you can deliver, to your point, on such large, complex projects?
Well, look, generally we'll take, as long as we've got capacity, we'll take them on. We don't evaluate whether or not it's they've got the right team or it's the right style of project. We simply, if we've got capacity at that time of year, we'll take it on, so long as we can get the commercials in order. So there's a number of good businesses in our industry. There's a number of different price points in our industry, and so some businesses will work with some events because that's a price point that suits both parties. Given our overhead, there's a certain level that we need to charge at. So our clients also have to be able to sell their event to their marketplace at that level as well. As long as those things tie up, then off we go. We don't take it any further than that. There's no further analysis than that.
Which is nice. It's a very privileged position, and I say that as a compliment that you're in that space to be able to do that, because it is hard. There's constant push, especially the last few years for obvious reasons, and also just the costs inflation now. So to be able to,
isn't that so when I said at the start that it's good, but there's challenges, that's our biggest challenge at the moment. Yeah. Our cost of doing business has gone up over 35% since we resumed trade post-COVID.
Yeah, which is a huge number.
35%. So our wage rate, so we have salaries and wages, salaries and office, so they're up over 20%, and our wage rate has gone up over 35% hourly wage rate. And 50 cents in every dollar we make goes into our payroll. So the impact that's had on us, and then fuel and cartage and shipping and e-tag and every other utility cost you can think of, it's just gone through the roof, which has put a lot of pressure on industry.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's probably the biggest point. We saw the industry reopen and everyone sort of come back on board, but they still wanted everything back where it was. But the reality is that wasn't the case, and it put a lot of pressure on, particularly on the supply network.
Well, it's put an equal amount of pressure on our clients because we can't absorb 35-40% increase in doing business. So we have to have mature convos with our wonderful clients to say, guys, we need some help here. We can't absorb it. We're going to have to work something out.
I'm keen to run something by you, Gab. So just in line with what we're now talking about, I'm working with someone. I'm pricing something up. They haven't rolled out their event since 2019 for obvious reasons in this instance, but they're still looking at that budget from 2019, which I didn't work on that event, but they're referring to that so often, and I'm trying to finesse the wording around, well, hang on, we're not fucking in 2019 anymore. Like, prices have gone through the roof.
Yeah.
Is that something that you're having to...
Sadly, you're 100% right. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if your client's job's requoted and it's more than 50% the cost of what it was last time.
They told me it's, nearly... Yep, it's around that.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. And it's not that we're... The perception might be that, we're using this as an opportunity to... profiteer or gouge, but it's simply not the case. Yeah. And people say, but inflation's only gone up 7 or 8%. We were under a huge amount of pressure to maintain our workforce who are going into logistics, warehousing, and construction with all the Victoria's big build. We need to lock in a full-time workforce of around 1,000 people to deliver our events and expos confidently every time. So we have to reward them to a similar level to what they're being offered in other industries. And other industries are paying a lot more, and there's just, sadly, there's nothing we could do about that.
And have you seen that impact your business in terms of the client stuff, in terms of having to turn things away or projects not going ahead purely based on the fact the cost has gone up so much?
I can't think of any projects that were planned that didn't go ahead.
Okay.
And I can count on one finger, I think, the number of clients that couldn't continue working with us. And we've tried to be very accommodating and not heavy-handed in coming to agreements with our clients to both be able to navigate our way through. And the industry's just been wonderful, understanding and wonderful.
Taking a bit of a slightly different approach, I wanted to touch on your team's networking in particular. And it's something that, again, you're sort of renowned for, hosting events in-house for the industry. You host clients at major events in particular. The touch points with your clients are thoughtful, and we often talk about personal connection, but the scale and investment you place on this, again, somewhat unseen by others in the field. How do you go about measuring the impact of that investment and time?
The beers are always appreciated.
Good.
That's kind of what I'm getting at on a more formal question side of things. But it's a big part of what you guys do, yeah?
Well, I'm really glad you see that and appreciate it, because it's... As I said, there's a couple of fundamental drivers to our success, and relationships is right at the top. Yep. So it's all about getting to know people out of the office. That's all it is. When you're in the office, it's a different dynamic. You're behind a desk or you're surrounded by work, so you're not thinking like you might socially. When you could get someone out of the office, whether it be having a beer at an event, whether it can be walking through the National Gallery, whether it can be on the golf course, whether it's having morning tea, whatever it is, and you're outside of the office, the barriers are gone, and you're just building the trust and understanding and friendship, and that's what it's all about.
And it is friendships. I can remember my very first social outing, I'll call it that, with Harry's a very long time ago, and the person who was working for you at the time, and we're still mates now, and he doesn't work for you anymore, not even in the industry anymore, but we still see each other, probably because we're out till 4 o'clock in the morning and we can't remember much of the night.
Wasn't Alex Nestorovsky?
No,
he was always my
no
favourite.
names mentioned. But
Loved
but it is about relationships, and it's about that connection and stuff. And you're right, you sort of take yourself out of that work environment. But it's fun at the same time. Let's not discount it. You guys always put on a great thing, and I think that's why you become so emotionally invested in your company, even from the other side of the fence.
Oh, that's good to hear. If you think back to your friends outside of any work connection, you'd do anything for them. That's what it's all about, friendship. So, it makes sense if we want to enjoy ourselves and have good fun at work and be successful, we may as well have a really strong bond with everyone we work with, and there's nothing more than that.
Yeah, and for you personally, you've always come across as a very calm person, like I mentioned at the start, in control of what's happening. Is that always the case? And how do you take time away from the operations of a 24/7 business? Let's not, sugarcoat it, to balance your responsibilities and commitment.
Yeah. So firstly, I'm not doing it by myself in any way. And there's far more capable people at Harry's than me. So I take massive comfort in the fact that I've got this incredibly experienced team of people at every level, not just at a senior level, every level, from the people who are building the marquees and delivering the furniture and installing the expo stands and putting the lights in. There's experience. So that gives you a lot of comfort that things are going to look after themselves. And then from a personal level, people talk about pressure and these sort of things. I certainly don't feel any overwhelming pressure. I just go about doing the best job I possibly can. And if that's enough, Brad, the results will be there. If it's not enough, the results will be there, and you get a tap on the shoulder and things will change. And then I just put a lot of time into just being as healthy as I possibly can, like having a really strong foundation. So I'm up early every morning. I meditate, I stretch, I read, I exercise. I have a cold shower.
Oh, wow.
I've had
cold
showers every morning for about 7 years, which is just a horrible thing to do, Shane. Horrible thing to do.
What time in the morning do you do those? Because Hugh Jackman's got a great story. He does his and then goes back to bed.
Does he? Yeah. Okay. So I'm up at 3:30 in the morning.
Wow.
And I do all those things I mentioned to you. And I don't know, the cold showers generally around 5 o'clock or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's not for the health benefits. It's more so to get yourself accustomed to doing things you don't want to do.
A little uncomfortable.
Willpower and determination.
Geez, I thought you got up early at 4:35.
My alarm goes off at 5. I got to lift my game, Gab. You're making me look bad. But it's a little segue actually into one of the questions I wanted to ask is, what is an average day for you? I know that probably doesn't exist, but you're the CEO of a massive events company. What does a day look like?
Well, forget the title. So there's just... Harry's is a very flat business. We all sit together on one level of Harry the Hire, and we all just get involved and help out, and wherever we can direct our attention, we will. But going back, I'm up early, as I said. I'm doing all these things to give me that foundation. When things are tough, you can rely on yourself because you know you're never going to fail because you've built that inner strength. Exercise, get to work. I generally go through the reports for about half an hour every morning to see how the business is tracking. All the areas of the business are tracking through our live reporting.
Yep. So are you in very early, given the fact you're up so early?
No, I used to be in a lot earlier. So I generally get in around 7:30, 7:45.
Okay.
We start at 8 o'clock, go through the reports, try and get around and say hello to as many people as I can just to see how everyone's going and not to be separate in any way. And then, there might be various things that are required on it the day or troubleshooting or things pop up. And then if I'm idle, we've got a Sydney office, so I try to get up there if I can see a week that's a bit slow. Or alternatively, if there's not much happening in the office, I won't just stand behind the computer. I'll get out on site. Generally, we've got so much going on. I'll pop down to the MCEC. I'll pop to the REB. I'll head out to any private jobs I've got. And if none of that's happening, or even if it is, then it's all the relationship stuff.
Yeah.
So we've got 20 or 30 clients that we each focus on. So if things are a bit quiet after all those things I said, let's see if someone's available for a coffee or lunch or whatever it might be.
So you still are very client-facing in your day-to-day.
Absolutely.
Great. Yeah, good on you.
And then, I'm generally, I don't leave late. I'm out of there at, 5:15, 5:30, and really enjoy. I've got 2 kids, 17 and 15, and a wife.
Fun.
It's brilliant though. I'm blessed. I've got fabulous kids, and so that's really the focus. And luckily, I've always had the ability, no matter what my role is at Harry's. Harry's is a family-owned business, so we have an appreciation of families, and I've never missed one important thing in their life.
Fantastic.
And I've coached cricket, I've coached footy, which is early, out of work early Tuesdays and Thursdays, and even weekend coaching when we've got major jobs on. I've never missed anything that I felt was important. And
And do you think that's part of the ethos of Harry's? Like they've been able to support you through and everyone else on the team to do that, and be able to spend the family time, but also operate as a family and a family business, even though it is big?
Yeah, so for me, I've loved it because family's number one, work's number two. And so to be able to have a good career but also not sacrifice anything with my family is really important thing. With regard to Harry's being a family-owned business, it's a crazy place, Harry's.
Yeah.
Because when you have one person in charge, it's not like a committee gets together and reasons, and this with Rick. And so that is what makes it so exciting, that all of a sudden you think you're heading in that direction, and then you're heading down there and you're scratching your head going, what's just going on? Takes 2 or 3 years for people to adjust to that because it's very unorthodox. But once you get used to that, you really begin to enjoy it, and it leads to a lot of excitement in our workday.
And probably another reason why people stay so long in that business, and you do have the longevity in your staff and your team as well.
For those that get through.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's hard.
Yeah, and when you talk cricket and footy, you were at the old Harry's footy match. Have you ever seen that, mate?
I haven't, no.
Oh, it's a ripper, that one. So I think we've paused it for the last few years because of COVID, and we didn't have a workforce. But I think next year it should be back on. But just to give you an indication, I think we've either had 3 or 4 games. 3 of those, my ribs were broken.
Yeah. We're playing for sheep stations.
I was going to say.
Yeah, well, I am. I mean, I am always voted the person who takes it the most serious, but it is great fun. It's about team. It's not about who wins in any way. It's really just getting everyone together, the ops and the sales guys, and having a crack and having a bit of fun.
Yeah. Tell Marcus I'm going to get involved in the next one and try and take him out, okay? The size doesn't matter. I'll have a...
We got to 5:30 in your day and I cut you off, but just out of interest, what time do you go to bed if you're getting up at 3:30?
Generally, I'm asleep around 9:30.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so 6 hours sleep a night.
Something like that. I'm a morning person, so I'm up early. The point I'd make out of all of that, though, is it's really important for people to work on what's inside. It's the most important thing. You can't deal with life and deal with challenges at work and complexity of all of that if you aren't comfortable and solid inside. And so I don't think I really realised that prior to starting to build these disciplines in my life. But 5 or 10 years into doing all the things I do, I now realise how important it is. So you now have confidence that no matter what the challenge is, you'll be able to meet that challenge. And you have an awareness through meditation. You have an awareness of who you are and how you behave, which I never did before meditation, and therefore the impact that can have on others around you.
Yeah, totally.
So unless your internal is sorted and your mind's sorted, you're never going to be fully comfortable and working to your full potential.
I think it's so true. And I mean, I've spoken about it before in my own personal story, but this industry in particular, you can get caught out real quick because it's not 9 to 5. You're going 24/7. There's a lot of influences in a lot of different areas where you can run off the rails. And I use that term, it's a bit harsh, but again, personal experience, until you can really understand your place and your position and guide yourself in that way, it's such an important part to making sure you got the longevity in there, but also stay grounded.
Totally, man. And like even the most basic things, get a good night's sleep, eat well, exercise so you're fit, and meditation for me is nothing more than exercise for my mind.
Yeah. It's great to see too, because there's so many bad stories in the industry from historical nature. And I go back to, it's just the way it was done in the previous, iteration, previous generations where people were sleeping under stages and they were drinking heavily and there was a lot of, drug influence, dare I say it. Yeah, exactly. And just that culture that was there where it started from, particularly in the production space, that sort of built the industry on its foundations. But now to see, leadership like you've got, Gab, and being able to, those healthy habits and stuff being influenced back into the industry, I think it'll give it its longevity.
It's important. It's also hard, and I'd say from personal experience as someone who's now 4 years into running a business, I don't probably have that yet. I try my best, but it is really hard to find that balance. But you must notice if you have a week or 2 weeks of going without one of those early morning routines, you would really notice that.
Spot on, Shane. So I don't miss. Every day I do it. It might only be that I'm on a houseboat with 10 other people and I find it hard to meditate for one day, but it is ultra consistent. That's the key, consistency. People might start to meditate or might exercise and after 3 weeks it's stopped. I don't miss a day. And I don't allow the time that I do that to be compromised. So that's why I get up early.
Yeah.
So I can live my whole life before I come to work. If I'm up at 3:30 and I don't get to work till 7:30, there's 4 hours.
Yeah.
And that's just full of, there's no distractions, no one's up. And it's just full of the time for me to do what I need to do to be solid.
Just out of curiosity.
So I've got my son and daughter into the exercise.
Fantastic.
The meditation, I'm not there yet. I'm not sure if the time's right, but it would be if I could give them the gift of physical exercise and meditation, along with the education they're already getting, it's the greatest gift I can give them.
Yeah, wow.
But people think meditation's all loopy stuff. It's not at all. It's exercise for your mind, and and it's incredible how calm this can be and what you can get out of your head if you just consistently put the time and effort in. And Brad, the one thing if people are encouraged to do it, don't give up.
Yeah.
You don't ever arrive with meditation.
No.
So
how long have you been doing it?
I'd say 6 years.
Okay.
And I don't miss a day. But people say, oh, I tried it, but I couldn't do it. Of course you can't do it. Like unfit people can't run a marathon.
Correct.
Until they exercise to do it. And then after 6 months or 9 months, they can. It's no different to meditation. You just got to stick with it.
And looking at yourself now compared to, 23-year-old Gab that started at Harry Hire, lifting scaffolding and so forth. Do you wish you'd had some of these practices earlier in your life? Or?
No, that's a journey of life.
Great.
No, I was all over the shop back then, but that's what life's about.
Yeah,
and I was having the time of my life, but hopefully the right people. You might read something in a book that really gets you thinking that meditation might be useful, or exercise. Give it a go and just stick with it. And I guarantee it will make you a happier and better person.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree.
Smiling and nodding, and we get it.
Hey, many of our listeners are event managers, planners, producers, etc. From your point of view, what are some of the most important sort of tips you can give them on how best to get the most out of their suppliers and their engagement with people like yourself?
Yeah, good question. I think they should be open to a relationship and build a relationship. Communication develops, and so there's real trust and confidence there. I think they should, certainly from a Harry's perspective, draw upon all the various offerings we've got and the level of experience within our business. And then more down-to-earth things or basic things, just to be when we're getting a brief, to be as organised and precise as they possibly can be in telling us what they need. So you get this bit of a joke about organisers not being organised. And that does happen, and that makes it problematic, and it also makes it expensive because it costs us more time than it should, and there might be inefficiencies on site which have to be dealt with. So use our experience, but be organised, have a crack, push themselves.
Yeah.
Because we've got a very, very healthy market. There's a lot of opportunity out there.
Which is growing too.
It is, mate. I'm just so thankful and proud of those first events and organisers following. So it must have been January 21, Omicron, Oz Open Tennis. And there was this period of 3 months between the tennis, which was reduced in capacity, and Grand Prix wanting to happen in March. Yep. And the government was holding its nerve. Omicron's popping up. Do we hold events or not? And those event organisers and expo organisers that had the courage to push ahead were all rewarded, and they had far greater attendance than anyone expected. And the reason I'm raising it is, if you have a crack, to this point in time, we have found that every event and exhibition has surpassed its targets. So getting together, being with other people, it's in our DNA. It's not going to go away. And so I just encourage people to think a bit outside the box and have the courage to push ahead, and mostly they get rewarded for their efforts.
I love that answer. We had a big one cancel during that Omicron period, and I was shattered more because we were so big at the time on bringing people back together, and yet the attitudes of parts of the media and government were going back to that panic. Oh shit, let's actually keep everyone separate again. But no, it was all about let's get them back together. People there was an appetite for it. And
you can understand why you were cautious, because these people this might be their life savings that are going to go into staging the event. And if something outside of their control, stops it happening, where do they go from there?
Yeah, and there were so many that had that similar story, and it's sort of been burnt once, and they didn't want to go again. That hesitation was there, and so
it was incredibly challenging period of time.
Yeah.
We forget,
and still is for some people these days. I think we're still in that rebuilding phases, and there's great the opportunities there, and we're now getting a bit more support and so forth. Talking about the future and looking at the future for you guys, I know you're at the forefront of things like sustainability and diversity and so forth. What are some of the trends you're seeing, and how do you go about looking at what's coming in the future and adapting to the marketplace to make sure you are relevant?
Yeah, make sure we are relevant. That's pretty important.
And open-minded, I mentioned.
Yeah. So like we're constantly under pressure from all the quality suppliers in Victoria around the country in each of the product groups that we supply to. So you can never have a day off, and there's some fantastic offerings out there in whether it be other temporary structures, whether it be other furniture options, whether it be other exhibition build and production offerings. So you've got the competition, and that can either be a challenge or it can be an opportunity. And we've got to see it as an opportunity, and we've got to evolve, and we've got to stay at the forefront and be better. And that's hard, and we're not. We're half the time we are, half the time we're not. And when we're not, we get overtaken really, really quickly.
Yep.
So we need to have the right people with the right vision and creative mind. And that's my greatest weakness. I'm not a creative person. I'm not a product person. We need a really strong team that can see it before anyone else does and can get it going in our business so we can introduce products that no one's ever seen before that keep us at the forefront.
And trust too, I imagine, to pull the trigger on that if it's new or something a bit diverse.
Yeah, and we've got a culture of doing that. If we think it's the right product, we'll go for it, and nearly all the time it works. So the key really is irresistible product. And that is what we have, and we let ourselves down, and we do, and that's just life, but we always have to leapfrog and get back in front. Sustainability is a big thing.
Yeah.
So we used to sort of, sustainability, green policy, but
the reality of it is very different.
That is fair dinkum. And back a few years, it used to maybe be some benefit in a bid to have a green policy, and that might help us a little. But in a year or two, I think you're actually going to be locked out of opportunities if you're not ESG friendly and you don't have genuine substance behind what you're doing.
And if you had to change the way you're doing something, I'm thinking about fabrication and custom builds,
everything,
and, single-use products and stuff that you did have a lot of back in the day.
Everything's
but you've had to change
changed.
the way you've done it.
Yeah, everything's
and
changed.
Too, right?
Yeah. So all of our purchasing, it's front of mind. How we package our gear, how we get it to site, what we do with it. Most of our stuff is reusable because we're a hire business, but things like our custom builds.
Yes.
We've recently found a new partnership with a company that's recycling 90 or 93% of everything that goes into our custom builds, which is a massive win because that was our biggest area of wastage. Yeah. So that's hugely important.
And is there a responsibility on something like that? You go back to the team and been so flatlined. Is it everyone's responsibility to bring those things to the table, or have you got a dedicated team or people that look at these initiatives and bring them to the table for you?
So we didn't structure it in that way, but once again, having quality people in your team, it's just an interest of someone and they enjoy working on it, and all of a sudden they start driving that process. Yeah. So Michael Furman, who works in our exhibition business, that's been something he's been heavily involved in, and through that messaging and through general awareness, and Scotty Billing, who manages our workshop, he found this unique recycling business for all of our MDF and cabinetry product.
Yeah, and do you find
I'll be asking about that later? By the way. Yeah.
And do you find it difficult, some of those things, to again, big business, big operation, to implement some of those processes? And another great one, we're seeing a lot of change in policy around diversity in a good way, but for example, changing ramps and handrails, and it's not just changing one; it's changing hundreds of these products at once and very quickly, and being able to adapt to that. How do you sort of manage that?
I've never seen it as a major challenge or difficulty. I think we become aware of things, and
it's been enforced really, which it is what it is. So
we become aware of it, and then we just start. Maybe we're a bit slow on some things, but when it gains real momentum and it becomes necessary, then you just find a way to do it. With regard to diversity, I mean, that's I'm really strong on this. Whoever the right person is will get the role.
Yeah, totally.
Whoever it is doesn't matter. And we've got people from all over the world working for us now, which is just fabulous. And if they shine and show their ability, they'll be given whatever opportunity they deserve.
One last question before we get into the hard-hitting ones from Buzz. For you, what does success mean in both business and in events?
Well, for business, I think it's setting targets and chasing them down, keeping the team together, enjoying yourself, having a great culture, the exceptional teamwork. That's winning for me. If we get the basics right, generally our business achieves what it needs to achieve. Success for event is when our clients are stoked. They just couldn't be happier. They come to us and say, you took so much pressure off our shoulders. We never had to worry about anything. We know you might be a little bit more expensive than the others, but we had complete confidence that you'd get it done. Every deadline you met and we never had to worry. Yeah. And they had a good result. That's success in an event or an exhibition. I love hearing that.
And for you personally?
For me personally, well, I think it's keeping the team together because that's what guarantees our success and just ensuring we work really well as a team. Yep. Everything else looks after itself from there. And the most basic building block in that is employing the best people we can find. So Harry and myself, Harry's Rick's son.
Yep.
We try and meet every single person who joins our business in the sales and service side, whether it be in Sydney or Melbourne, from the most junior to the most senior. And then if we haven't met them because we're away or something, then we'll go out to lunch and get to know them.
Interesting little question on that. In terms of those that don't know, is Harry the Hirer literally named after Harry, as in Rick's son? It's because
that was going to be my first rapid fire.
Yeah,
question.
well, sorry, mate. No, I'll answer that. So as I said, Harry's has been around for about 45 years, and young Harry Jamieson's 33 now, I think. And I think about 34 years ago, Rick was wondering whether the business was only 10 years old, and he was wondering whether or not he should hold on to it. I think maybe he was thinking he'd pass it on to someone else, but he loved the name Harry, and he had a kid on the way. And he said, you know what? I think the business might be going, but I'm going to name my second son Harry.
Yeah, love it. Sorry, mate. I should have read your questions before I answered that, but it's a good little segue. So let's hit Gab up with what you got left.
All right, well, I'll cross off that first question. That's a great answer.
So it's funny, though. So Harry started on the phones at Harry the Hirer, and it was a great icebreaker for him when he, g'day, this is Harry from Harry the Hirer. How can I help you?
That's cool.
It's awesome.
Yeah, that is
so
really
good.
All right, so rapid fire questions, quick, off the cuff. All right, your favourite event to attend?
I like golf tournaments because they're so chilled.
Did you go to Live?
No, I missed out. We had a crisis, so unfortunately I didn't get there. But golf tournaments, you can just sit on the deck. Usually it's sunny and there's no pressure.
Nice. Do you have a favourite hire item that may have ended up in your house?
So I do have half a dozen samples, Shane, that I was allowed to take.
Samples.
Yeah, they didn't go ahead, so I was allowed to take those. But favourite hire item at the moment would have to be our Highline structure, which was used for Red Bull and the Grand Prix lounge entry. And it just looks extraordinary. When you grew up with clear span tents with white canvas and then you see this Highline structure, it just blows my mind where a business has come to.
Unbelievable.
Has got to. It's quite incredible.
I'm just making a note. Use the word sample. All right. Okay.
Now Highline structure.
I am able to delete certain answers in this, aren't I? Yes.
What's your favourite way to spend a Sunday free of any commitments?
Exercise, do all the things I normally do. Exercise, lie on the couch, read the paper. Hopefully the sun's out, read a book in the backyard and spend time with my wife and kids.
Nice. Any new event trends to watch out for?
The event landscape is changing very quickly. Clients want more diversity in the product offering. They don't. They're interested in all the different products that the world can offer. And so we're beginning to see very different event builds, whether it be at tennis or at a Grand Prix or a spring racing carnival. So I think it's not having a uniform look. It's more so having a bespoke look, and that's not just limited to furniture. It's temporary infrastructure as well.
What's the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Listen, but make your own decision.
And my final one, you've got 3 people coming to your place for dinner. Who are they, and what music are you playing for them?
Mate, boring answer, but it's my wife and 2 kids.
Oh,
and I'd probably my son's DJing at the moment, and he's playing some really cool music, so he'll be on the decks.
So it's all the Robinsons in. Yeah.
Mate, I'm afraid so.
That's okay. No, that's very nice.
It's all about family.
It is.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, business and personal life. Hey, mate, it's been great to chat. I think we could sit here and talk about 1,000 more things, but you're a very busy man, so we appreciate you taking the time to have a chat to us on An Eventful Life and sharing your story and your thoughts, but also that of Harry's. And we wish you all the best. Thanks, Brad, and really glad to be invited. I don't normally do this sort of stuff because I don't like things about me, but I come here on behalf of Harry the Hire and appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks for your time, Gab.
Thanks, Shane.
Thanks for listening to An Eventful Life. And if you like what you hear, don't forget to subscribe to listen to more episodes. I'm Brad.
And I'm Shane, and this podcast is produced by EOS Creative.
See you next time on An Eventful Life.